Grace and peace, everybody. We're back. You saw the thumbnail? You saw the title? Let's go ahead and get at it. Nick Fuentes, in Nick Fuentes fashion, is giving Candace that work. So let's talk about it. Let's go.
So what happened to the big bad Candace Owens? I think that's what everybody's wondering. What happened to that cockiness? What happened to the swaggering Candace Owens? For 3 months, this negress, this uppity black woman, has been going on her YouTube and bobbing her head. I'm going to name names. That doesn't work for me. What you mean? What you mean? That ain't work with my timeline. What you mean? I got the names. You don't want to with me. That we've been hearing that for 3 months. We have been hearing this uppity ignoramus for 3 months, bobbing her head, cocky. Hey, yo, I got names. Don't you try. Don't play with me. Where'd she go? Where'd that Candace go? Where is she? What happened? Did they replace her with a body double? Is it AI? Check her earlobes. Check her earlobes. Did they replace her? Because we got a very different Candace Owens. Today, we got a Candace Owens who is sort of nervous, saying, hi, guys, Shabbat Shalom. Everyone's saying I sold out. What do you mean? That's not true. Those are bots saying that. I still believe there's a conspiracy. What happened? What happened to that same energy? She went into the meeting with this energy, giddy, grinning, smiling. Erica Kirk, she's talking about me. I know she's talking about me. I'm going to set her straight. I'm going to ask my questions. Tell me where I lied, she said. Then she goes in the meeting, whole different attitude.
I mean, you got to tell the truth, man. You have to tell the truth. Even if you're a Cantifa member, you have to accept these charges. The Candace that came back on whatever that was, Tuesday, is different than the one that's gone in. Now, you don't have to like Nick to tell the truth. That's true. Why is the question that we're asking. What happened?
Changed her tune. She comes out of the meeting, whole different attitude. Erica's the best. Turning Point's innocent. It's just some people in Turning Point might be bad because, we don't know, but we know it feels off. What happened?
That's a good question.
You know what I think happened? I think this is why Turning Point called the meeting in the first place. Because a lot of people that defend Turning Point were saying they're making a mistake hosting the meeting.
I said that.
They're saying no matter what they say, Candace will continue fueling fanning the flames of the conspiracy. People said, so why did Erica agree to the meeting? Here's what I think happened based on my intimate knowledge of how these things work. The way the defamation law works in the United States is very interesting. If you defame or libel an ordinary person, a private citizen, there's a very low bar to prove that you've defamed somebody. So let's say if I talk about my neighbor who is not on Twitter, who's not on Facebook, who's not a famous person, if I take my neighbor who's a private person that just has a job and is unknown, and I start saying, this person's a murderer, this person's a rapist, this person's terrible, all they have to prove is that I was reckless. All they have to prove is that what I'm telling the world about that person is not true. And they win. And they get to extract a lot of damages. If, however, you are a public figure, if you're famous, so let's say if you're the president of the United States, if I say a lot of terrible things about the president, he has a much higher bar legally to find me guilty. He has to prove, the standard is called actual malice. And what that means is that you knew you were lying and you lied to hurt that person. And then they have to prove how much money they lost. So it's very difficult to prove defamation if you're a public figure. And it's even more difficult for it to be lucrative, for it to be viable, to win any kind of money, because you have to prove the damages too. How do you prove that somebody is engaging in actual malice, you have to prove that they lied and they knew they were lying, which is a very tough thing, because how do you know
Here it
that
comes.
somebody is lying?
Yep.
Well, I imagine maybe that's what they did in this meeting, because Turning Point brought their lawyers and they brought their documentation.
That they probably did.
And if they show Candace Owens certain information with a lawyer present, if Candace continues to talk badly about Turning Point after having verifiably seen evidence to the contrary, they can prove actual malice. They can prove that she's knowingly lying. Maybe.
Okay, I want to jump in real quick because Nick is right on the target. I think that's probably what they did. I do believe that that's probably what happened. Now, Candace says that the lawyer wasn't in the room. I'd take that with a grain of salt, because it's very possible she might be lying and she doesn't want to admit it. But you have to admit she came back with a whole different energy. She came back with a total different position and such of that nature. I don't think this is hyperbole. I think she really did see the writing on the wall, and she already knows that the Macron case is very similar to this. And there's a lot of heat on her bumper, and maybe I need to step down. I need to pump the brakes a little bit. That's what I'm thinking. So shout out to Nick for sure. Let's go.
That's what they did. Maybe that was the strategy. And to borrow a phrase, the whole show was pretty fake and gay. Fake and gay. She sounded nervous. She sounded not confident. It sounded like she knows she's full of shit. It was confused, rambling, non-committal, wants to maintain the facade that there's some conspiracy, I'm still on the case, but at the same time, walking significant parts of it back, and in the end, only spending about half the show talking about it before she launched into a bunch of other stuff about Tim Pool and other drama.
Right, there you go. And this has been my issue with her.
What happened to the
big... Oh, no, darn it. This has been my issue with her, is that a lot of what she does doesn't seem serious. I'm sorry, like, you sitting down with Erica, you should have did an hour by hour, maybe 15 minute by 15 minute breakdown. Everybody wanted to hear and know what y'all talked about. But literally, you gave it a passing glance. I think she was more passionate about talking about Tim Pool that day. And I'll bring it back up again. The whole assassination plot, that should have been, why is that not important that you're not talking about it, but you want us to believe that your life is in danger, and you don't even talk about it. You don't even show us any evidence. You don't even make a police report, or your lawyers don't even talk about it. I'm sorry. I got to agree with him. Okay, let's go back.
Very tough thing, because how do you know that somebody is lying? Well, I imagine maybe that's what they did in this meeting, because Turning Point brought their lawyers and they brought their documentation. And if they show Candace Owens certain information with a lawyer present,
right.
If Candace continues to talk badly about Turning Point after having verifiably seen evidence to the contrary, they can prove actual malice. They can prove that she's knowingly lying. Maybe that's what they did. Maybe that was the strategy. And to borrow a phrase, the whole show was pretty fake and gay. Fake and gay. She sounded nervous. Right. She sounded not confident. It sounded like she knows she's full of shit. It was confused, rambling, non-committal, wants to maintain the facade that there's some conspiracy, I'm still on the case, but at the same time, walking significant parts of it back, and in the end, only spending about half the show talking about it before she launched into a bunch of other stuff about Tim Pool and other drama.
So I really think that is what happened. But what do you think? Do you think Turning Point said they made her an offer she couldn't refuse? Do you think that they said, hey, we know that you got the Macron case, and you think that the Macrons, because they emailed you the cease and desist, they emailed you the retraction letter, we're actually bringing you the retraction letter in your face. I don't know if they served her, but rather we're letting you know where we're going to go with this. What do you think? There might be some room there. I think there could be room there for sure. Let me know. I really appreciate y'all rocking with me. Appreciate y'all helping us hit 100,000 subscribers by hitting that subscribe button. And until then, everybody, grace and peace. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the JWhit Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.